an eviction moratorium and getting that executive order done. But we're not just leaving it on the White House. We're asking for Congress. We're asking House leadership to reconvene us, bring us back because this is our job. We can't go on recess. We can't go on vacation when millions of people's lives are at risk.
That was Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush. She is now about to enter her fourth night tonight of sleeping on the steps of the U.S. Capitol to protest the end of a federal ban on evictions. Bush, who herself was once homeless, says she wants the Biden administration, you heard her there, and Congress to act immediately to extend the eviction moratorium. It ended last Saturday. It was put in place by the CDC last September to protect millions of tenants who were facing financial challenges because of the pandemic. An effort to extend the moratorium failed in Congress last week. And now with COVID cases once again surging across the country, the lives of millions hang in the balance. According to the Census Bureau, nearly 11 million people are behind on rent. And now renters are required to pay any payments they miss. So all that back money is due as well. Joining our conversation, Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. She is the co-chair of the Democratic Steering and Policy Committee and the former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We're grateful to get to talk to you today. So much going on. First, tell me what the latest is this hour in efforts to extend the eviction moratorium.
Thank you very much for that question, Nicole. First of all, let me just say Congresswoman Cori Bush is correct. And I just want to thank her for pricking the conscience of this country, because throughout the country, people have to understand where we are. We're, first of all, in a state of national public health emergency at this point. And the Biden administration, with the stroke of a pen, could extend this eviction moratorium. We need to do that because this is a public health crisis. Secondly, we need to pass Congresswoman Waters' bill. We need to do that as quickly as possible and return to Washington to do that. But in the meantime, millions of people are going to be kicked out of their homes if, in fact, the administration does not extend the moratorium. So we're working each and every day, every hour, to try to convince the Biden-Harris administration and the CDC to extend the eviction moratorium.
Let me just put up for our viewers some numbers of humans, households, people who are affected. 16% of all households are behind on rent. 29% of renters in Mississippi, 28% of renters in South Carolina. Black renters are more than twice as likely to be behind as white renters. The source there is the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. And Congressman, let me read you some of what I understand to be one of the legal and policy hurdles for the White House to not just take care of this at their level. The Wall Street Journal writes this. In June, the Supreme Court rejected an emergency request to clear the way for evictions after the Biden administration said it would extend the moratorium for one final month. Justice Brett Kavanaugh voted with the 5-4 majority to keep the moratorium in place, but issued a one-paragraph concurrence saying he believed the moratorium was unlawful and was willing to leave it in place for July. None of the sort of legal and policy machinations probably matter to all those millions of people possibly facing evictions in the middle of this Delta variant surge. But I wonder if you feel like everyone at the table is clear on the legal and policy predicaments before them.
They need to be clear if they're not. Because, in fact, when the Supreme Court issued this decision, the Delta variant wasn't taking over. People weren't, the virus was not being transmitted in the way it's being transmitted now. Secondly, the CDC has the authority to extend and to issue a public health designation in terms of an emergency. And the Biden administration needs to insist that that happen so that they can go ahead and extend the eviction moratorium. It's a moral disgrace. You saw the numbers there, the figures. When people are evicted, they become homeless, and then the virus will be transmitted even in larger numbers. And so the Biden administration needs to understand the facts on the ground now. Those facts on the ground were not evident, and they weren't there, quite frankly, when, in fact, the Supreme Court made this decision. So this is unconscionable, and they've got to act, and they've got to act quickly.
I want to switch gears since we're lucky enough to get to talk to you on a day with so much thrilling in the news and ask your thoughts about the first week of public hearings from the Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection. Do you support subpoenas for your Republican colleagues if they have information that might shed light on Donald Trump's state of mind and public statements and private conduct that day?
Nicole, I leave that up to the chairman, Chairman Benny Thompson of the committee. He's a very smart, he's a very objective, and he's a very clear-thinking chairman who will issue subpoenas should the facts determine that that's what his course of action should be. Of course, we know there are going to be many who are going to have to come before the committee, subpoena or not, because we've got to get to the truth. We've got to get to the bottom of this. The insurrectionists, the white supremacists, almost completed a coup d'etat. They were responsible for the deaths of many. They came to assassinate members of Congress, the Speaker, the Vice President. We must get to the bottom of it. The truth must be told by any means necessary.
I want to get your thoughts as well on what feels like a legislative quagmire. You've got Senator Manchin quite devoted to keeping the filibuster in place. You've got the Texas Democrats basically in exile, keeping their state from passing a voter restriction law there. What is the current state of talks? I know the House has done its work, but what is the status of a more narrow federal voting rights bill passing the Senate?
They've got to do this, Nicole. It's my understanding they're negotiating. We have to pass H.R. 1 and we have to pass H.R. 4. What's taking place now is all of these voter suppression laws that the states are passing are really taking away the right to vote of African Americans, people of color, young people, people in rural communities. This is unacceptable. And so we have got to have federal protections. And these negotiations are moving forward. And I hope that those Republicans also should understand that our democracy requires that everyone have the right to vote. And taking so long to do this, I'm hoping is because they're moving forward. We've got to get the dark money out of politics. We've got to make sure that access to voting is easy so people can exercise their constitutional rights.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thank you for spanning the day's topics in the news and spending some time with us. We're grateful.